And a great good evening to all of you joining us here at the Marcia Week Show. I am Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and it's a pleasure for me to come to you again tonight as the host of this tremendous showcase here, this tremendous show. My honor to be a part of this, and the honor of mine to assist Marcia in this process, and certainly an honor of mine to be able to join with you, the loyal opposition of Barbados and in Barbados. And tonight we are reconvening the loyal CARICOM opposition. Regrettably, one of our members is unable to make it. But we're going to have a great show tonight with those that can. And we're looking forward to a tremendous time together as we spend looking at the affairs that affect not only Barbados, but well, particularly and primarily Barbados and Barbadians, you as you are in this country, and certainly as you seek to, along with others, to address some of the challenges, some of the ills, and other matters that pertain to this country. Just a confirmation that you're getting me loud and clear, and I can see that my image is looking pretty all right from what I'm seeing on my monitors. I do have a couple of monitors that I keep around all the time to make sure that at least the image is coming out, but I don't want to turn the song down, because if I do turn on the song, it will feed back through the system. So just want to confirm that you're hearing me good and loud and clear from the loyal opposition. Good evening to all of you. A pleasure to have you joining us as well, Sir Alfred Benjamin out of Brooklyn, New York. And I think I saw someone on Mr. Owen, I think it was it Owen? Owen Hines from Philadelphia. Good evening, Owen. A pleasure to have you joining us tonight. Mr. Gad, Vernon Garnes, Mildred Ben. Great to have you with us tonight. Nat Grant, a pleasure to have you back with us tonight. Judy, good evening to you. And nice to have you with us, Jefferson Sobers. And of course, Marcia, always great to have you, because I know you're going to keep me on my toes when it comes to that national anthem. I really appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Ronnie Hall, God bless you too. Good night to you, and thank you for joining us again this evening. Jacqueline Aline, good night to you as well. I trust you had a great night last night as you were watching the Hush program. We were engaged with a production, very busy production for Marcia. She had a very busy weekend, and certainly was a great production last night. And I'm sure you'll be seeing some clips and segments of it over time. Good night to you too, Patrick Designs and Matthew Brown. And Monica Ince, good night to you as well. Lucinda Aline, thank you for confirming, Monica, that you're hearing loud and clear. I always like to make sure that you're picking us up good and clear. We don't want you to miss what we have to share with you over the evenings. Beverly Prescott, Lemuel Tull, good evening to you. Mr. Gad, and Jacqueline, thank you again. Good evening, Jacqueline, Aline, loud and clear. A great good evening to you. We're up to 169, and we want to encourage you to make sure you give us the thumbs up. Remember, please give us the thumbs up on YouTube, and remember to share. Okay, remember to do that. If you don't share, we can't necessarily expand the impact and influence that we've been having, and we've been having a tremendous influence. And I want to say that we're not here just to create problems or anything of the sort. We're here to be a constructive, critical analysis of what is happening in our country, and from time to time to even give to the government some of our suggestions to resolve some of the increasing flood of issues that we are having in Barbados. And I keep I keep saying to myself and reminding others that yes, Marcia, thank you so much. Good to see you as well. I keep reminding others that government is a place where people are supposed to do their job. All right. I don't believe, and you must forgive me if I have this kind of uh, peculiar sense, but I think people are granted, what should I say, rewards and special recognition when they go above and beyond what their job is. Currently, the government is supposed to be doing its job, And I make no apologies. When we elected you to office, we elected you to office to do a job. That job was to look after the interests of the people of your constituencies and the people of Barbados. And I don't believe constituency representatives should be looking after the overall need of Barbados at the neglect of their constituents and their constituencies. Because if you're doing your job properly in your constituency, then the country should, by extension, benefit. Okay, and that's how I look at it. I don't believe in giving a government kudos for putting lights in, water in, roads in, fixing roads, and none of those things. That's your job. That's what you're paid every month for. When I worked in companies, I was paid to do a job. And I didn't get any special kudos when I did my job. When I went beyond and above what I was supposed to do, then I was recognized, right? Right. I was very instrumental in the introduction and successful introduction of the BMW brand to Barbados. That was my responsibility, and that is something that I believe I handled well, because when I was preparing to leave Barbados BS&T Motors, I received a recognition, a certificate of recognition from the general manager of BS&T Motors, acknowledging the significant input I had in making the brand's launch and introduction to Barbados as a new brand a successful one. And but I wasn't recognized for the maintenance of my sales during the month or during the year, but I was recognized for the overall successful introduction. And I believe the rest is history. You see them all over the island. As a matter of fact, as a result, Mercedes had an increase in sales. You saw Jaguar introduced, you saw Audi introduced to Barbados as a result of it. And so, as a result of what I did with the BMW brand and successfully implementing it to Barbados, Barbadians benefited from accessing other high-end vehicles. Mercedes at the time was exceptionally expensive. They had to cut their prices to be competitive with us. Of course, Audi came in and they became very competitive as well. I don't believe they have a dealer in the island at the moment. And then Jaguar came in, and then of course Land Rover was here all the time. But then they introduced their high-end, the Range Rovers and so on, really began to roll into the country. So I was recognized for that. So, and I feel the same way about the government. If you're hard to do a job, and so just simply do the job and don't expect kudos from the people of Barbados for doing your job. That's what you're supposed to do. But when you go above and beyond, we will recognize you and we will acknowledge you accordingly. Well, I see we're up to 252. And I want to redeem the time, make sure that I'm using up as much of the time in productive manners as I can. And so we want to begin this evening, of course, with the national anthem and the pledge. And then I've asked Dave to prep a couple of extracts to do with the Christmas season. It is the season, unlike any other in the year. There is an atmosphere, there is a presence around Christmas, unlike any other month, around December. Even though I started hearing Christmas music and all of that back in October, and somebody said to me today that they actually heard Christmas music as far back as August, which I think is a bit ridiculous. October, I would stretch it, as you begin to roll toward the season. I could understand that, but as we come in to the tighter into the Christmas season, December, of course, we begin to highlight and focus on the birth of Jesus Christ. Okay, and so I've asked Dave to prep some extracts to do with Christmas before we actually get into the evening. And what we're going to do now is we're going to commence with the national anthem, and then following that, the national pledge. So, Dave, let us have the national anthem, please. Amen. You know, I really, those last few lines of the national anthem really resonate with me. Strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. And I know Rose, who'll be joining us shortly, you know, that has been like a clarion call from her. Strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. Now, I want to redeem the time tonight. A couple of things I'd like to personally address before we get into the guests, and I have the guests coming in and joining me on the show. Just a couple of things I want to touch on. The first thing I want to touch on has to do with this matter of the introduction of a cashless transit system that the government has indicated that they have engaged. The Transport Board, we are told, has taken a bold step into the digital age of public transport with the launch of a smart card system designed to modernize public transit and improve efficiency. I've already begun to hear that that is already creating problems. There are already problems with it, and it seems that it has not been a thoroughly vetted and thought out process. That is what I've been made to understand. Rolled out on Sunday, I think that would have been last Sunday. The system's initial phase focuses on old age pensioners, marking the beginning of a transformative journey toward a cashless technology driven commuter experience. Now, let me say right off the bat, the smart card, they say, let me just read a bit more, introduces digital tickets, eliminating manual record keeping and setting the stage for a cashless future. Now, pensioners with traditional or unpinned ID cards can continue to travel as usual, with drivers manually inputting their system. Those with updated cards can now tap their cards on a tablet, enabling their trips. Holder explained, what we have effectively done is remove the manual intervention of someone having to write on a piece of paper, travel record, and so on. Each bus is now equipped with GPS technology, which will allow commuters to track buses in real time via their phones or the Transport Board website. It will also allow government to track you. And this is one of the things that is very concerning within the context of the Barbados Trident digital ID. And there may be people who are thinking that I am being a bit of a conspiracist and that this doesn't really hold water. But I believe the minister responsible had indicated when this system was first touted that it would facilitate the tracking of persons, so that they could know, the busy times and all this kind of thing. But I want to read something to you from a report, a paper that was published. And I've done this before when we were engaging the initial aspect of the digital ID. And I want to read to you from an extract from the World Economic paper that was published outlining the significant risks of digital ID. And right off the bat, this is what they say. The concept of the digital ID poses significant risks. Now, I could stop there right away and tell you that if that's the case, we need to pull it back again. There, the government is trying to get these IDs, make people mandatory, control people in the process of taking these IDs, whether you like it or not, because they are not you're not going to be able to travel within the context of the transportation system unless you are in possession of one of the new digital IDs. I don't have a problem with that. Just don't pin it. And I say that because the World Economic Forum indicated that these digital IDs pose significant risks, the most serious of which potentially are exclusion, marginalization, and oppression. And we've already seen reports from different parts of the world where these ID cards have created these kind of environments for persons, for the general public in those countries. The report assesses the considerable potential benefits of the digital ID and particularly decentralized digital ID. Notice that decentralized digital ID, which can help to foster greater social inclusion and enhance privacy protections when implemented properly. But there are risks outlined in the report, many of which will be familiar to critics and digital ID programs. The WEF notes that by making access conditional, are you listening? I didn't write this, This is the World Economic Forum, who incidentally is one of the key factors behind the whole rollout process of digital IDs across the world. But notice they're using some specific language in. They say when it's done properly, but it notes it can that by making it conditional, the idea of any kind is by its nature exclusionary. One can't get a driver's license, for example, without providing a home address, excluding those who don't have a home address. And in situations in which sensitive data is collected, there are also risks of marginalization and oppression, with the ID being used to facilitate the identification. Listen to the language from the World Economic Forum: surveillance and persecution of individuals or groups, the report says. Now, when you combine that together with the cybercrime bill, you can see that this government is beginning to try to move toward the same processes of some other autocratic totalitarian governments around the world when the two are merged together. The article goes on to speak about the United Kingdom. The government insists that it won't, stating that is the one of the claims it sought to dispel is the idea that using the login would be mandatory for citizens in the UK. And then it went on to list a number of other things. The World Economic Forum's risk assessment offers little reassurance as a system expands. The consequences of not participating in it can become so severe as to make registration effectively unavoidable or mandatory. The report says when access to a goods or service is conditioned upon the possession of a form of ID, and that ID is widespread, individuals may be effectively coerced into obtaining that form of identification, even if there's no legal basis for requiring it. So you can see right there, right off the bat, the introduction of this process at the transport board system, at the using it in terms of the transport board. And notice who are the initial target: the elderly, the pensioners, okay, who are likely going to be the least likely people to understand how to utilize the process. And in some instances, as we used to say in the old days, you can't bend an old tree. All right. And what we are seeing is a strategic move toward the potential of introducing a cashless society. Now, I express some aspects of concern to this because we just finished. Sorry, I don't have some to hand. We just finished producing brand new cash, fiat currency, cash bills to Barbados. And so you have to ask yourself the question: if you are now introducing new $2 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, 20, 50s, hundreds, why are we talking about cashless aspects? Something doesn't add up, okay? And that's the first thing I want to touch on this evening concerning this matter of what we are beginning to see rolled out. And in my view, and pardon my ignorant perspective on it, what we're seeing rolled out is a deceitful manner to ensure that you have to get the new Trident ID, because you cannot travel on the public transport without it. Okay, that is what we are seeing. Someone, Monica, says that she understands that the government will pin them when everyone gets them, but they're already being pinned. Monica, I know a number of people who have pinned them. And another aspect that the World Economic Forum paper outlines has to do with the sensitive data, such as biometrics, and even aspects of financial records and access to financial accounts of the carriers of the card, where governments can access that information. And in a real sense, when we talk about, when the globalists talk about 15-minute cities, what that would mean is that we would be restricted regarding the movement from our homes and our locations. And this is a strategic preparation for the next pandemic, which is being planned. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you wish, but we are beginning to see these processes, and experts are already beginning to address it and alert us to it, not a conspiracy theory. And what would happen is that in the context of the next global emergency of a pandemic nature, they would restrict your movement within a specific space of your home where your card, your digital ID and your card, your financial card information. I'm hesitating to say your credit or debit card, but the World Economic Forum's information points to that. Will not work outside of a specified distance, and it gets as far as suggesting that it will only work for the purchase of certain items. And these are matters that people talk about conspiracy theory. I invite you, as the loyal opposition, to do your own due diligence. Look it up and see the significant sources that are pointing to these matters. This is not conspiracy theories. Okay, these are facts. The globalists, Davos addressed this. Charles Schwab spoke about this. In terms of the World Economic Forum, the United Nations move and positioning to take over the sovereignty of countries that America has not signed on to, but we have, in order to take control of the sovereignty of a nation within the context of the pandemic. We can begin to see begin to see what is being prepared where we are concerned. And as some have indicated, the Caribbean, more specifically Barbados, was a test case for certain treatments relative to the last pandemic that we had and that was introduced. All right, so I am I'm issuing a word of warning, a word of caution to the general public, the civil society of Barbados. This is the beginning. Remember, it was introduced, it was confronted, it was pulled back, and now a deceitful, underhanded aspect of reintroducing it and making it compulsory in a very deceptive manner in order for you to travel on our transport system. Let me get quickly to the second matter I want to address very quickly before I bring my first guest in. It has to do with the Barbados draft constitution, and I was interested in an article carried in the St. Vincent Times by the Grenada Monarchist Organization in a letter to the editor, which I found interesting that they were addressing the new constitution of Barbados, which comes 3 years after Barbados formally severed its links with the crown and became a republic in 2021. And they're saying that they're issuing a major warning, or that major warning signs of the true intentions of republicanism and doing away with the monarchy in our region is to centralize the power within the context of the prime minister. And they indicated a number of things in the context of Barbados, where the governing party holds 29 of the 30 seats, and they institute a number of noticeable and detrimental changes regarding the headship of state compared to the monarchical independence constitution of 1966, where inevitably, if I could paraphrase it very quickly, is that the power to appoint the president and disappoint the president lies solely in the hands of the prime minister. The prime minister doesn't have to consult in terms, if it's not necessary. The prime minister does not have where the prime minister does not have a 2/3 majority to push something through Parliament, because remember, the president is supposed to be one of the safeguard mechanisms to ensure that any law or legislation passed in Parliament is consistent with the constitution of the country, and in a sense, she becomes a safeguard with regards to the publishing of that legislation as it leaves the House of Assembly and the Senate. But the draft constitution provides an insidious loophole for an unscrupulous prime minister to control the presidency in the event of a vacancy in the presidency. Say, for example, if Parliament is unable to elect a president, the prime minister has free rein to directly appoint an acting president indefinitely. The only limit whatsoever to that, the prime minister must consult the opposition leader, an entirely meaningless phrase, which in reality allows the prime minister to entirely ignore the views of the opposition. In practice, this would allow the prime minister to purposefully sabotage a presidential election by ensuring no candidate receives two-thirds majority, thus making the prime minister free to appoint an acting prime minister, acting president, and so on. I'm not going to take all the time to go into that because my time is quickly leaving us. But I personally am advocating for a number of things within the context of our new constitution. First of all, I believe that there should be a fixed term of election, just like it is in the United States, every 4 years, in America, every 5 years. And I don't care who's the president, who's the Senate, who's the Congress, or who's the Supreme Court. You can't change it unless you go and change the Constitution. My personal view is that in the future, we are not living in the societies that we lived in back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s in the 20th century. We're in the 21st century, and we are living. Yes, Guy, you're absolutely correct. Any prime minister who holds office, and this we must understand. We must understand that it is not a case that focuses exclusively on the current administration. The Constitution, thank you very much, Guy, for highlighting that and bringing that to my attention. The Constitution that is being introduced is a Constitution that will govern government and governance in the country, period. Okay, where you can have an unscrupulous prime minister and engaging the whole process along with other matters to do with the Constitution. So the first thing I believe is that the aspect of election should be fixed. No prime minister should be able to prorogue Parliament at their whim and fancy. Fixed times, you know when elections are due. Secondly, I believe that the people of Barbados should choose their president, their Senate, their parliament, and their prime minister. I do not believe at this juncture, given all that has transpired in the last 3 years and the manner in which we have seen governments function over the last 3 years, that any prime minister should now be left to be appointed by the members of parliament, especially when you have a parliamentary condition such as what Barbados experienced with 30 love in the House of Assembly. The people of Barbados should be the people electing the prime minister, choosing who governs their country, choosing the parliament, choosing the Senate, and choosing the president. If there are a couple of people whose names come up who have presented themselves, who have gone through the appropriate vetting system and been vetted and nominated to be president, we choose those persons. That is, to my mind, what a republic is. And there has to be a separation of powers where the prime minister cannot appoint judges or Supreme Court justices or anything of the sort. People talk to me about the United States. The president of the United States cannot appoint a Supreme Court justice. He first has to nominate the justice. That nomination, just as you're seeing right now, even the cabinet, the president cannot even appoint cabinet members. Those persons have to be vetted. They have to go through a committee system where they are queried and so forth. And of course, you can have it go either way with regards to the persons who are nominated. He will have to come back up with another nominee if necessary. And that, to my mind, is what we need to see happening in Barbados, because we have seen enough foolishness over the past couple of years, and these things need to be rectified. That is just my simple take on it. Yeah, I've seen that process, Kenneth. I've seen that process, and I don't know. I think it's I'm not sure if it's introduced here in Barbados. I know when we come in with our passports, we have to put it through that type of thing. And I don't have any problems with fingerprints and facial IDs and whatnot. It is what the government takes it and uses it for. Remember, the warning of the WEF is not that digital IDs are not of value, they are cautioning the risks. And so we as a people must ensure that we are protected from the risk of an unscrupulous administration who can use these processes to marginalize citizens in the country. And don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. We have talked about victimization in Barbados from the time I could remember myself, where people who vote for one party are victimized when it comes to jobs in government. We know this happens. So don't let us act as though we don't know what is going on. All right. So praise God. Now we are going to move quickly forward into the program. I see a couple of my guests already in. I'm going to move right into inviting Mademoiselle Rose Corbing to join me. Good evening, Rose. You'll have to unmute. It's a pleasure to have you with me again this evening. We're looking forward to the remaining members. We only have one member of the loyal CARICOM opposition joining us tonight. Just one person joining us. The other individual, unfortunately, um, I don't know, Guy Fawkes. Unfortunately, because of her location, the Honorable Karita is not going to be able to join us because they have some issues in that area that she is in Guyana at the moment with the um, internet link ups and so on. So she might not be able to join us later on tonight, but we are expecting Mr. Umar Abdullah to join us later on tonight, and he has an interesting subject to deal with, just like you. But welcome to the show tonight, Mademoiselle Rose. A pleasure to have you with us this evening. Good evening.
Thank you and good evening, Brother Ferdinand. A pleasure to be here, and let me greet the loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen of her faith, wherever you are here in Barbados, across the Caribbean, and in the diaspora, particularly the UK and the US of A. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you. Thank you so much. And Pastor Ferdy, I thank you for setting the platform for me. I think that I should abdicate myself. I think that I should excuse myself because you have really touched
I,
what
pe-
I.
I peeked over your shoulder.
Yes, yes, and you haven't seen my
Uh,
slides. You haven't seen anything, but you really have um, delved significantly and passionately into the various issues, particularly that of becoming a republic. I want to say briefly that if the Transport Board had managed its affairs properly, we would not be imposing cashless travel on the TAP as well as the bigger transport board buses. And now I was thinking about countries where you can get a weekly pass, a monthly pass. That makes it easier, and you don't have to compromise your privacy and expose yourself using the digital card, the pinned digital card. I am particularly concerned for the older citizens, and I mean, hey, I'm a pension card holder, but there are not all who are particularly adept and capable of using the technology and its complications. And why not? If this is a country that cares, they say that bus fare is subsidized, but I don't think so when the IMF is trying to get rid of the transport board because of its dependency on government and the fact that it's losing money. And this government is doing nothing to help those who have to travel. Think of a minimum wage per week person who has to use the transport board bus, changing buses, transferring from one bus to the other, and you're getting minimum wage. When you take out near $40, $45 on bus fare, what do you take home? And these are things that should be looked at. Passes, reduce passes for uh, certain distances. If you have to transfer, say, coming from Connelltown, and you have to transfer at Speightstown to go up to Oistins or along the south coast, you should have a reduced pass. But they're supposed to be the brains. But things like that, if I did not have that kind of pass when I was a student in Manchester in the 80s, I would not get to university many days. I would have to walk. So I'm saying that should really look at other offer options. Those who want to hit the digital pin, the ID card, free enough. But those who don't want to, give them the option of purchasing a ticket and use the technology then to 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 within that ticket, and not to compromise the individual, but you can tap that pass then. Your name is not on it, and it is a way of monitoring now the monies that are coming in. Give options to this cashless um, system that they're first introducing through the transport board. And that is my take on that one, Pastor Ferdy. I went to the Cape Coral concert on Saturday night, and the Right Honorable Gabby, uh, just for short, he performed at the end. And you know, there's not a show without Gabby singing Emerton. For the first time in all the years I have heard an arrangement of Emerton was by the UWI Blackbirds Big Band. And you know, music, there was a heartbeat in Gabby's sound, that in the musical arrangement, that if you were connected to that kind of migration, to that kind of national pain, you would have felt it. That I turned to my husband. I said, "Are you hearing the heartbeat in the arrangement?" And there is a heartbeat in Barbados where persons are feeling it, feeling it, and they're pleading. I hope you understand, and no one is listening. And tonight I want to look at some of the things that are happening. This was supposed to be closer to independence, but certain shows um, brought that gap, but it's still relevant. And it is my country to me, my country to you, Pastor Ferdy, my country to all those who are listening and who care about Barbados. And Dave, I has asked Mark Lord and the duo on that. Could it be played, My Country to Me, by Mark Lord and Alec Cage? Is it possible?
Well, I'll tell you, Rose, that when it comes to Dave, it's amazing how many things are possible.
Yes, I
And
had sent
if
it
he
to him.
hasn't, if you send it to him, he'll soon have it up there. I can tell you that he'll soon have
And
it up there. But
while we wait, while we wait, I would use up the time then. Um,
He'll just give him a couple of minutes. He'll have it up shortly. So you could probably proceed into what you want
yes,
to present, and then he'll come with
yes.
that.
Um, could we see the other slide then? Can you facilitate that, Pastor Ferdy? Yes. My country to me.
Oh,
Some would
that's not
want.
me though. Okay, that's not me doing that. That's Dave.
All
Okay,
right,
because I don't have it. That's Dave. Yeah, go ahead.
all right. This is just my preamble. Some would want us to think that Reno born, using the Barbados vernacular, Reno born the 24th of May 2018, making us Barbados 6 years old, that they have given birth to us. But who or what went before? Because immediately before 2018, okay, Dave,
I think he might have it.
yes, my country
I
to
think he
me.
might have it. Yes.
I listen to the lyrics and the sentiments contained in that song.
Maybe
Oops.
having a little. Okay, here it comes.
Oh, oh, my country to me, in the sense of being free and having the right to speak your mind out. That is my country to me. Here's the air I breathe. I'm so proud to be born here. And the love and beauty that surround us, we share it day by day. 'Cause that is my country to me. Mark Lord, ladies and gentlemen. My country to me. That is the children's laughter and genuinely loving each other. God is my country to me. It is the air I breathe, and I'm so proud to be born here. The love, the beauty that surrounds us, ooh, we share it day by day. You see, that is my country to me. Oh, I will not look down. Hey, I will always keep my head up high and share with pride and ministry. Oh, people will always respect what God means to me.
We could stop it now in the interest of time. We have we can stop it in the interest of time, but I thought I'd play that because I love Barbados and you do. That's why we're here. And those who are listening, they do. So let us get back to the slide. Some will want us to think that Reno born the 24th of May 2018, making us Barbados 6 years old, that they have given birth to us. Who or what went before? Because immediately before 2018, there was the last decade, as they call it, under the former Prime Minister Freundel Stewart. Seems that there was no Prime Minister on Arthur, according to the narrative that we hear, right, Pastor Ferdy? Neither there was Sir Erskine, neither there was Prime Minister Bree St. John, neither was there Prime Minister Tom Adams, nor the father of independence, His Excellency Errol Walton Barrow, and before him, His Excellency Sir Grantley Adams. It began right here, not with these people. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Our foundational pillars, despite the flaws and inadequacies of those just mentioned, they represent the foundational pillars of Barbados, pre-independence, independence, and post-independence. And for them, with all their flaws and inadequacies, it was all about Barbados. Not using Barbados as a satellite and ladder and platform for personal fame and glory and adulation on the global stage, as is happening now. Yes, prime ministers on taking up office would impress on the public that they're the nicest gift sent slice like sweetbread and red juicy, and that like sweetbread with a piece of cheese in it tastes even better. And a juicy with milk, and a snow cone with condensed milk. But they move on in national interests. But not so now. My country to me. Next slide, please. Our Barbados independence on the 30th of November 1966 was predicated on a national philosophical vision and mission to move Barbados from the socio-economic conditions which we were experiencing as a British colony. And we just have to look at 27 years prior to 1966 to the 1937 riots and the report of the Moyen Commission. That tells us what the conditions were that propelled the movement to self-governance, whether those in in Britain thought that we could do it. There was a philosophical underpinning, philosophical pillars that drove us and took us into independence. Next slide, please. Thank you. My country to me, we're not being romantic, Pastor Ferdinand. I think you could give your romance elsewhere. So it's not that we're being romantic when we talk about independence and the road to independence. The evidence is there. We went into independence with a constitution. That's how serious this was for the leaders at that time, Errol Walton Barrow and his team. They formulated a constitution, even dare say, with guidance from the UK experts. But they had a constitution going into independence, and with input from our local persons, our local legal minds, and others. The people were the constitution. We went into independence with the constitution, not waiting for one after the fact. Like now, the people were prepared for independence. I remembered in 1966, I was 9 going on 10. And I remember my grandmother used to work at Dodds Plantation. And I remember the discussion that happened amongst the laborers. And I remember people came to the plantation to talk to the workers about independence. I remembered it. And I was curious because at St. Philip's Girls' School, we were being prepared to sing the national anthem, to draw the flag, to learn the motto, and all of that. And we were told why we were becoming independent. Therefore, when these people came to Dodd's plantation to talk to the barefooted workers, to talk to the workers in pumps, to talk to that group of persons, and I believe that was replicated around the island, people were led to understand what independence meant. Now we are hearing that there are going to be meetings after the fact about the republic. Back then, the governor of the day respected the individual of the masses who voted for them. But this particular government is all about party, it's all about having a good time and sliding in all these decisions and policies and shifts and transition. So getting back to the slide, there was a lead up to independence. And although some resisted, they knew it was coming. And some were gradually won over, like my grandmother, who felt optimistic that it would bring a change and benefit the poor children. Her grandchild, who was bright, that's me, who was bright, could now get the opportunity and then have to depend on the vestry and its selective way of giving scholarships. And if you weren't an Anglican, that is why a lot of persons transitioned from the Pentecostal churches and the small mission churches and joined the Anglican because it was a way to ensure that their children could be in line for a vestry scholarship or funds. So here's independence, and my grandmother is being won over because it is going to give me an opportunity to get free secondary education at one of the top schools. So there was a philosophy behind it. So she felt optimistic that it would bring a change, benefit poor people, the black ones particularly, who worked on the plantation, who were treated as chattel, who were domestic servants, who worked for low wages as artisans in back-breaking conditions. Next one, please. Whenever I think of independence, 58 years ago, that I listened to Already Fusion, the recording Already Fusion, it was crackling, it wasn't clear, but we knew that something was happening at the Garden Savannah. The rain was pouring. This is the image that comes to my mind over and over when I think about the road to independence and independence. This comes to mind all the time. I go back and look at it. But look at the next slide, Dave. When I think of the Republic, I kid you not, I think of the young lady on the right. I'm not a prude, but this is the image. I can't remember anything about the night of the Republic, becoming a Republic, beyond this image. Beyond this image. And that is what most people would have seen. Those who, I believe, those who went Tahiro Square went for the entertainers and the entertainment, because in Barbados now, everything is a crowd puller when you have entertainment. If we were to go and do a survey amongst those people and ask them what they were celebrating, what they were hailing, they cannot, many of them will not be able to get past. Um, it's republic. We become a republic because as I was looking at the press reporting, even the British press, the US press, you had words like dishing the Queen, parting ways with the Queen, removing the Queen, denouncing the Queen. Republic is more than that. I want all that there is to offer as a republic, as an independent, self-governing, uh, self-directed, any self-driven nation. I am not opposing republic, but what is the form of republic? When you rewrite our constitution, and the report itself is very long. I'm going to take some time to read it when I get my new specs. And don't say I am anti-republic, but I am saying, how was it done? And this is the image I have every time I think I know what went on when I think of becoming a republic. Next slide, Dave. Tracing the road to Barbados becoming a republic. The road to a republic did not begin with this administration and Prime Minister Motley. This is the impression that is usually given everything began here. But remember, we used to sing a song at Sunday school. The wise man built his house upon a rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood still. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. And the rains came down, and the floods came up. The rain came down, and the floods came up. The rain came down, and the floods came up. And the house on the sand fell in. And this is what's happening. We're not having a foundational. Everything seems to be built up in the air. And when you look beneath that good structure at the top, what appears beautiful and solid at the top, when you look beneath, it is shaky or non-existent foundation. Hence, we see the things that have been happening. The run with haste to get things done, and then they have to pull back, like with the cybercrime bill, like with the NIS matters. And so, if we trace the road to the Republic, in 1979, the Cox Commission on the feasibility of introducing a republic system, and Barbadians did not want a republic at that time. In 1994, the BLP mentioned a referendum to introduce a republic. They asked for a referendum under Owen Arthur. They said they would have a referendum to introduce a republic. It never happened. In 1996, the Constitution Review Commission under the late Henry Ford, Sir Henry Ford, looked at it and addressed it. I can't go into the details there, but I'm just tracing that things were happening before. Between 2005 and 2007, February 2005, in the Referendum Act, the question was asked about Barbados becoming a parliamentary republic. Research on it. The late Owen Arthur had his concerns about the future of the British monarchy, and we see how that's fallen to pieces. In March 2015, PM Stewart, Freundel Stewart, announced that Barbados will become a republic in the near future, noting that the Right Excellent Arab Barrow decolonized the politics. And he said, is quoted as saying, and Freundel is going to complete the process with the 50th anniversary of independence in 2016. And you knew the circumstances that would have prevented that. Next one, please. Sorry, that got slid in there, Dave, the next one. So what is the republic established on? What are the foundational pillars? Since what are the philosophical pillars? Beyond dishing the queen, she had not yet passed. Beyond denouncing her, beyond cutting ties and getting rid of the queen. Why are we doing it? I have not heard anything that represents philosophical, visionary thought and reasons. It seems like what are the foundational pillars? It seems like the cart is before the horse. And that is how Barbados it seems to have become. And the horse only pulls the cart when we go to the various landing agencies. The horse, you can say who the horse is analogous to, who the horse represents here. But when the horse pulls the cart, they pull the cart all the way to the landing agencies and begging, and get the cart filled up, and we don't see it returning to us in the way it should. And again, the road to the republic under this administration has the semblance of a cart before the horse. Next one, Dave, please. And that's how we are. We are like a house without a solid foundation, a straw foundation. And I say we, Barbados. Barbados is becoming like that. And the person who touts climate change globally and is using that as a platform to other things, other adulation and recognition, is causing Barbados to look like that house. No amount of borrowing and money borrowing of money seems to be stabilizing us. As far as I see, we are crashing like a straw foundation. Next slide, Dave. Is there another? Or is that the last? Yes. And in recent times, our foundation is becoming shakier. Before we go, I have here, please permit me to pull it up. Brother Ferdinand, I have here a warning from the former leader of opposition on the reported in the news on the 29th of September 2021. And permit me quickly to read it about going into the Republic. Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Adderley has raised concerns over the legality of government's intended move to a Republican status, despite declaring full support for the move. Citing unnamed members of the legal profession, he said the manner in which government was proceeding to move Barbados from a realm to a republic with a Barbadian head of state could be unlawful. A lawmaker moved to pass the Constitution Amendment Bill. As lawmakers moved to pass the Constitution Amendment Bill, Bishop Adley said he was not attacking government, but merely wanted the transition to Republican status to be done the right way. Has it been done the right way? No. Noting that government has proven to be wrong in the past on points of law, he said the Prime Minister and the government have been advised by prominent persons who we have saluted and honored: Sir David Simmons, Sir Dennis Bryan, Justice Sherman Moore, and I have no doubt that the government of Barbados will come to proposing this to the House on the basis of good legal advice. But we have seen, Pastor Ferdy, what has happened with the cybercrime bill, what has happened with the digital matter.
And the Child Protection Bill.
All those things we have seen that they have not seem to have not attended to good legal advice. All I am saying, Bishop Adley continues, is that there are equally prominent persons, legally experienced, trained, and acclaimed, who are of the view that this is appropriate. I have spoken to a number of legal persons who hold very strongly to the view that it is inappropriate for the Barbados government to seek to undertake an action that results in what we perceive to be the revocation of an order in Council of the UK Parliament. Can the Barbados Parliament revoke an order in Council of the UK Parliament? The opposition leader said he did not want a situation where the Barbados government found itself before the law court because it had erred in its procedure. We are exposed if we get it wrong, said Bishop Adderley. We expose ourselves to legal challenges brought pursuant to or consequent upon any action that we take as a people on the Constitution if it is proven wrong. And he went on to say the timing to become a republic. He opposed the timing to become a republic and described it as the wrong moment as Barbados continued to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. There are always sliding things in when persons are less prepared, are unprepared for what they're doing. Like when they wait till there's a busy time in the land to distract and sliding things. And he was warning that it was the wrong moment as Barbados continued to battle COVID, just like how, Pastor Ferdinand, elections were called. Can we
Absolutely.
trust a government like
Absolutely.
this? We can't. He
You see, Rose.
declared,
You
I
see, Rose.
support the move
Sorry.
to republic. I support the nomination when it comes in the appropriate format and time. But I believe very strongly that we're doing this at the wrong time and the process leaves much to be desired. I believe that there are many out there of the view that we are not getting this right when it comes to the process. And he went on, and his suggestion, he said also that the November the 30th date for the transition was inappropriate, as it could diminish the work of Errol Barrow, the father of independence. He suggested that July the 26th, 2022, the day of national significance that memorializes the 1937 disturbances would be a better fit for such an event. And I'm finishing there. It was told to the House, Reverend Ferdinand, in 2021 in the House. And it's you were doing it at the wrong time. The process is flawed. Um, he talked about the errors in the Constitution that would make it illegal. And he suggested that there be two separate days so that it is not on Independence Day to diminish the work of the father of independence. And they did it.
Yeah,
And
you see,
these
we
are
have
things that
observed that
concern Swan.
we have observed, Rose, that has been an operation of the government over the past several years. We have seen them very quietly and I call it very deceptively introduce a number of different things when people are distracted. And we have to keep our eyes open and our ears open during this Christmas season, because it is during times like this that all kinds of things slipping under the radar. And of course, we know that within the context of the Republic announcements. I mean, I myself was I've seen, and it would be interesting. One of the things I wanted to touch on tonight, if we had had the time, and if the Honorable Karita MacDonald would have been able to make it, was how did the Barbados navigate? I mean, how did Trinidad and
Diana.
Tobago and Guyana navigate their republic perspectives? I think one became a republic in 1970, the other became a republic, I think, in 1976. And they have had the experiences considerably more than ourselves. So, of course, um, while there are people who may disagree with me, my aspect, my aspect, was the perspective of the American Republican system. That's why I started tonight by addressing the matter of the selections and elections of well, not the Congress, the Parliament, the Senate, and so on. But we're going to have to move to the next segment, Rose. That
Yes,
was
please.
a tremendous aspect in comparison of the two roads, the two pathways that we journeyed on, and I thought it was. I thought it was a significant error, mistake, and misstep that little, if nothing, was said concerning the independence history of Barbados, including the Honorable Errol Walton Barrow, relative to the aspect of independence. There was very little said. To my mind, I thought that the Prime Minister was playing to the audience, because sitting in the audience were members of the Black Caucus of the United States. You had people like Maxine Walters. I don't think much of her. You had people like Jeffries, I think is his name. I heard a couple of people mention Rubio, but I don't think Rubio was in the group. I do stand to be corrected. I'm not sure if he was actually here. Um, but there were a couple of others, and I queried, I queried, Rose, the value of the governments in the Caribbean entering into any discussions with these people who were on their way out anyhow, because you have a new government in a what we would call it again, a landslide, taking the Congress, the House, the Senate, and of course we know in terms of the Supreme Court, the new government has that position, and I didn't think it was a wise act, and they didn't just turn up. Nobody can tell me that they just turned up for the 50th celebration of independence in Barbados. They had to have been invited,
Yeah.
and they had to have been invited for a purpose greater than the independence celebration. And of course, in the independence celebration, we honored Shirley Chisholm, and I have no problems with that, honoring Shirley Chisholm. I don't know why you would need 30 something people from the United States government coming in here for that honor. I don't quite understand that. But certainly, in terms of the leaders of the Caribbean sitting down to talk to a party that was no longer in power. Because remember, Rose, the Democrats lost the Congress. Well, they didn't lose the Congress. They didn't win the Congress. They lost the majority in the Senate. And of course, they lost the presidency. And I'm asking myself, well, why are you sitting down talking with these people that you want to tick off the incoming administration? But anyhow, they must have their reasons for having done that. But we have to move on to the next segment. Rose, stay with us, please. I
Yes,
want to
please.
I want to just draw attention to the benefit concert that you're seeing there on the screen for this young lady that we're trying to help, Amaya. I think she has some major medical challenges and they're trying to raise funds. You know, I was shocked the other day when someone mentioned to me that they would have had to travel to the United States of America to do an operation, a cancerous operation in excess of 50,000 US dollars. And I was like shocked when I heard that 100,000 Barbados dollars for an operation. Wow, you know. So, but you know, we certainly want to be able to support this worthy cause. This is on the 15th of December. Entries by donation, and I don't know if Dave, you can bring that up a little bigger. It starts at 5 o'clock. It's a benefit concert. I'm just looking for the location. Location is that at Coffee's Bay Street opposite the Nautilus. I'm not too familiar with the area there in Bay Street, but I'm sure others are, and we want to be able to support this worthy cause. The Praise Academy of Dance will be involved, and the Double Laugh Theater, they were going to be involved. So we want to encourage you to assist this young lady in treating to the physical challenges that she's having, the cost of which I understand are exceptionally expensive. We also have this Christmas toy drive up until the 20th of December. You can make it a little bigger, just pull it up a little bigger, Dave, that we can see some of that small print. But this is a toy drive, and we want to remind you, you know, there are a lot of people that are less fortunate than we are. I think I saw already someone post in the chat something to do with you know, clothing. I think it was for some persons who were unfortunately unable to find themselves in a position to do so. And so we want to ask you, especially during this season, to keep in mind those people who are less fortunate, and let's, as Barbadians, care for the others. But we want to welcome our next guest, Rose, Mr. Umar Abdullah, to the session tonight. Good evening, Umar. A pleasure to have you back with us again tonight. You're muted, so you'll need to unmute. But a pleasure to have you back with us tonight. You remember last week, I think they referred to us as the loyal CARICOM opposition, I think is what they referred to us as. And so we're back together again this evening. So we want to welcome you, sir, to the show. A pleasure to have you joining us tonight.
Pleasure to be here as well. You hear me clearly?
Yeah, we are hearing you okay at the moment, sir. Yes. We're getting a little tip, you know, some little things every now and again, but I don't know if that's from you or if it's from me. Let me mute my mic while you speak and see if it's from my end.
Right. So it's a great pleasure to be here again with you all. And like I said, we need some serious opposition in our respective islands and, you know, by extension in the Caribbean region. And listening to Rose just a little while ago, it's sort of a nostalgic, you know, hearing her speak and so on about independence and the road to the republic and so on and so forth. And one thing I want to make absolutely clear, and I want people to understand this. You mentioned earlier that, you know, well, you referred to the other islands and when the other islands got the republic, us in 1976, here in Trinidad and Tobago. And, you know, those initiatives in bringing those respective islands under a republic was for the sincere purpose for which it was meant to be. sad to say, Barbados, I must say, um, had a total different situation, and I believe that Mia Motley had to rush and do whatever she had to do, which may perhaps be viewed as illegal, to bring Barbados to a republic, because she had to distance herself from the Queen to realign herself or to align herself with other global entities.
Hmm.
And Barbados Republic is an alignment. It's not getting rid of the Queen in so much, but it's an alignment with certain global entities, right, that we have to pay particular attention to. And the only way forward for Mia Motley and Barbados and her agenda was to do exactly that in the manner in which she would have done it. So there was no sincerity, in my view, to what she did as regards to the Republic of bringing Barbados under that label, Republic. All right. I don't know if you agree or you disagree, but that is my view. It was not a sincere move, and the Republic that we know of Barbados today is not the same as the Trinidad and Tobago Republic and the other islands as well. So that's just my quick take on that issue.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, in terms of my knowledge of the international arena, what was happening in the international arena, I would tend to agree with you because there was a lot of shifts and changes that were coming out of people like the WEF, the WHO, and the United Nations at the time. Even in terms of the cybercrime bill and the introduction of the cybercrime bill coming out of the aspect of the situation with the Brussels, I think is it not Brussels, Budapest Convention, and so on. These had to be moves that were initiated and had to be done quickly. And I think that's why we found ourselves going into our Republican status without a Republican's constitution. As Rose rightly said, when Barbados went independent, the Prime Minister of Barbados had already carried a constitution to the Queen in the United Kingdom. I don't want to say for verification, but it was already presented to the Queen. That did not happen in this instant. Barbados declared its Republican status, and we had no constitution in place at the time. You're muted. You're getting a bit
In
of a
Trinidad and
squeaking noise
Tobago,
coming through.
yeah,
Yeah, we're getting a bit of
in
a
Trinidad and
squeaking noise
Tobago,
coming through.
okay, wow. In Trinidad and Tobago, I hope this weekend stops sometime. In Trinidad and Tobago became a republic on the 1st of August, 1976. Now we celebrate our republic on September the 24th, which, as you just said, because Parliament, our first Parliament met under the new Republican Constitution on September the 24th. And that is why we celebrate our Republic Day on September the 24th. This was because of that. And what you're saying about your constitution and so on, it really, really begs the question, what was the real purpose? What was the real purpose of bringing Barbados under Republican status? All right. And people needs to understand, they need to pay attention to what is happening. There's a lot of things that's happening that, we tend to, shift aside and say, well, that's politics. That's the way they're doing things now, etc., etc. But we should not accept it. We should not accept it. One of our prime ministers, Basdev Pandey, once said, politics has a morality of its own. That was during his time. I am here to tell the entire Caribbean that today politics has no morality, none. Believe what I'm telling you.
Uh-huh.
You cannot Look at what the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, Prime Minister Keith Rowley, and these other Caribbean leaders are doing, and expect that somebody is going to say or believe that politics has some morality. It has none. It has none. Believe what I'm telling you here today. All right? But enough about that. I really wanted to address a situation that took place on the 5th
Yes.
of December, a Thursday. It was a Thursday, 5th of December. And there was a secret meeting, I would call it. There was a very interesting meeting that took place in Barbados. And while I was having breakfast that morning, where I live in Trinidad, we can see airplanes, all the airplanes, going to and from the airport. So those planes are coming in, those planes that are leaving. I was informed that a particular airplane that took off from Piaco International Airport was traveling at tremendous speed, faster than the normal commercial airline would fly, and at a very high altitude, 21,000 feet in the sky. And I was told that it's a private jet, a very expensive private jet that most billionaires and millionaires would usually use to travel around the globe, to go to their different meetings and business meetings and so on and so forth. On further investigation, because I started to inquire, who is the billionaire could be leaving Piaco International Airport and going to Barbados at this time of the morning? So I started to do some inquiries and so on, and I found out that it was the Prime Minister Christopher Rowley was traveling in that aircraft. They call it a Cessna 750 Citation X. Right? You can go and Google it, check it out, and you see for yourself how expensive that aircraft is, the speed of that aircraft, and so on, the luxury of that aircraft, and so on. Why people are suffering in Trinidad and Tobago? Why public servants are being given 4% and you give yourself a 47% increase? You're traveling in luxury. Who paid for that flight? We don't know. Who's responsible? We don't know. All right? These are questions that they have to answer. So when I inquired a bit more, I was told that he's heading to Barbados for an emergency meeting with Mia Mottley and some other, very, interesting guests that were going to be part of that meeting. And these are the purpose of that meeting. Apart from Mia Mottley and Prime Minister Keith, Dr. Christopher Rowley, we had also a U.S. Congresswoman, Maxine Waters, and she's a major voice in the U.S. foreign aid policy. We had also Senator Marco Rubio, known for his hardline stance on U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere. We had also Assistant Secretary of State Brian Nicholas, a key figure in enforcing U.S. interests in Latin America and the Caribbean. So there were a number of objectives that they wanted to achieve in this meeting. But one of the things that was discussed here, and I'm sure a lot of the Bajans, a lot of the people in Barbados are not aware of this particular initiative called the BRIDGETOWN initiative. And upon looking into this BRIDGETOWN initiative, it started to dawn on me why we are having these conversations. why we are having programs like this, why we are continuously coming to the people and having to explain over and over to the people what we had, what we have lost, and what is coming for us. Constantly, every single program, every conversation that we have, these are the three major topics: what we had, what was taken away from us, and what is coming for us. Now, the BRIDGETOWN initiative is a significant effort aimed at reforming international financial architecture. There's an acronym for it, IFE, to better address modern challenges such as climate change, systemic risk, and global inequality. Listen to the choice of words. But here are some of the initiatives, the key points of this initiative. Now, the initiative is named after Bridgetown because it's the capital of Barbados, of course, and it is led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley. It represents a coalition of partners advocating for global financial reform. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. All you Bajans, Trinbagonians, people from the Caribbean, the Guyanese, Jamaicans. It is advocating for global financial reform. The goals are primarily to transform new development finance work, particularly in helping countries cope with and adopt to climate change. We're hearing that phrase again, climate change. This includes making borrowing terms more favorable and preventing debt crisis triggered by natural disasters. Borrowing terms more favorable. I heard Sister Rose was talking about the IMF and the issues relating to the IMF. We're not going to have no IMF no more. We're going to have a new global financial system. Key proposals: debt suspension. So they're talking about suspending interest payments for countries. This is part of this initiative, where they can suspend interest payments to countries dealing with pandemics. Here are the terms they're using: pandemics. So then there's perhaps an intention, or perhaps there is probably other pandemics to come, all right, or natural disasters. We know how they're manipulating the weather now to allow them to focus on recovery. Increase lending, right? It'll be encouraging developed banks to lend an additional $1 trillion, $1 trillion to developing nations for climate resilience. Establishing global climate mitigation trusts to leverage private funding for climate mitigation and reconstruction efforts. Now, the thing about it is that all this sounds good to somebody who don't know what is happening. For the Bajans who go to parties and wake up the next day, you know, and go to work and, you know, work for, you know, whatever, come home back, you know, and just a mundane thing, you know, in and out every day. All right. But for the serious people, persons who are looking on and paying attention, like ourselves, there is a lot of negative impact associated with this Bridgetown initiative. Now, there's a possibility, and there is a great possibility, as a matter of fact, where all the Caribbean islands will be dependent on these debts. There'll be increased borrowing. So you're talking about the IMF now? Wait until this initiative kicks in and you see what's going to happen. Right? Even with the favorable terms that they're talking about, where they're going to forego interest and so on. But they want you to take the loan. Because why? Before, and I'll address that in a little bit, they want, so they'll be more than willing, after you take the loan, to forgive you the interest. Right? Because they would have already tied you in and trapped you. That's what they want to do. So we would not be able to get any loans, as we already know, with the many initiatives, the agreements and so on that they would have signed already. All these initiatives and agreements and international agreements and so on are pegged to one thing: loans, assistance, etc., with conditionalities, financial aid, right? So loans might come with conditions that could affect national sovereignty, and we've seen that already, or require policy changes that may not align with local priorities. And we know too well what are some of these conditions. If it is you do not allow same-sex marriage in a country, you're not going to get any loan. You're not going to get any assistance. You're not going to get any aid. So if you think the IMF is bad, this is what is coming with this BRIDGETOWN initiative. If it is you do not pass that cybercrime bill and strip away freedom of speech and freedom of expression, you're not going to get any loan. You have to fall in line. You have to comply. If you don't comply, you'll be one of those who will forever be, holding your hand out and not getting anything. Child protection bill, we saw what went on with that bill and how dangerous it is for our children. But you're talking about child protection, but they're not about protecting the child. They're about owning your child. That's what the bill is all about. Owning your child. And this is prevalent throughout the Caribbean region. And I've said it once, and I'm going to say it again. There shall be no easy picking in the Caribbean region. There shall be no easy picking. We have to stand firm as a people. We have to stand firm as a people. Right? This initiative could also impact on corruption levels. There may be widespread corruption, as we already seen with what took place with the republic status of Barbados. A lot of people are questioning the methods used and the way in which Mia Mottley went about doing this. Environmental impact, large-scale projects, what they are trying to encourage Caribbean nations to, dive into, all right, could have a lot of environmental consequences. And we're seeing that already. Much of our islands, these big hotel chains are going up all over our islands and so on, disrupting the ecosystem. The mangroves, our waters, and our our coral reefs, etc., etc. All right, all these things, because they are pushing these incentives, they're pushing these initiatives because they want to create a particular world that is going to destroy us as human beings and destroy our livelihood. Already we are seeing there's no transparency in governance. And this is another thing that we are going to see more and more happening as we go forward. So the thing about it is that how we as a people, we must ask ourselves, how we as a people could reject or push back against this initiative that has already attracted a number of discussions. And look what happened in Barbados. Under your very nose, these US officials, lawmakers from the United States came and had this meeting. And you know, one of the questions that somebody would have asked is, but how come they're having this meeting and they're going out of office? The Democrats, they're going out of office, and the Republicans are coming in.
Yes, correct.
What's so important that this meeting has to be held now? What are they going to do that the Republicans may not be able to change or reverse? People pay attention what is happening. I sometimes sit at night by myself and I wonder, are we going to win this fight? Are we going to get the people to understand what is happening in our Caribbean islands? Are we going to be able to do that? How many of you would put on your television or put on a media platform, YouTube or whatever the case may be, and hear Mia Motley speak and be attracted to what she's saying, but not at the same time listening carefully and understanding what it is she means? Words can be very attractive, but it can also be very deceptive. And we must understand what is happening. All right? We hear a lot about the WEF. Yeah.
No, I was just about to say, you know, I think that one of the challenges we have is, and I think that noise might be coming from my system. Just let me, you go ahead, Umar. I'm going to just change over my mic and headset and see if I get an elimination because it could be coming from my headset.
All right. Okay. Right. So I'm saying all of this to mean there might be some underlying agenda here, and we already we're seeing how the United States and their involvement in the Caribbean, you know, some of the initiatives and the efforts that they've been making into our national security apparatus and so on. Are we seeing a creation of or an opening of a doorway or corridor for the United States to establish a military presence in the Caribbean? Have we ever thought about it in that way? Why is all of a sudden America is so interested in you know, the security apparatus within our island chain and so on? What is really happening here? We have seen it happen in the Middle East. You know how the Americans would have you know, invaded countries in the Middle East, you know, extended their influence over the overpowering and overthrowing of governments, establishing or putting in place their puppet governments. We've seen it happen. The Caribbean chain of islands is the only remaining place on the face of the earth where they need to get their claws in. And
Well,
they are
one of the
trying.
things. Are you picking me up now? Are you guys picking me up?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, great. One of the things, Omar, that I think may be attracting the United States to the Caribbean area is the significantly increasing influence of China. Um, in terms of governmental funding, financing. I mean, you have ports being funded in Jamaica. You have Chinese funding being utilized a lot here in Barbados. I'm certain that in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a presence there as well. I'm not sure how to what degree it is in Guyana, but certainly the Chinese have been a lot more involved in the Caribbean than ever before. And of course, as you know, in the terms of a global environment, um, when you consider the moves toward a kind of a deplatforming from the United States currency, the US dollar, you have the BRICS development. And you have a number of countries joining the BRICS development. Of course, one of the major players in the BRICS development is China. And I believe that one of the reasons that the United States may be looking to try to uh, increase its footprint, because it's had a pretty large footprint, Omar, over the years. I mean, we've had, you remember your Chaguanas, your Chaguanas, is it Chagaramas? Your old Chagaramas base back in the years gone by. We had our U.S. base at North Point here in Barbados and St. Lucie. So they've had a pretty what should I say? They've had a pretty singular influence in the Caribbean, especially when it comes to the matters of financing, because I believe a lot of people fail to recognize that the International Monetary Fund's major funder is America, is the United States, and the World Bank's major funder is the United States. So in a sense, when you're dealing with the World Bank, in a sense, when you're dealing with the IMF, you're really dealing with the United States. And I remember in the last election, I was raising a matter. There was a matter raised in the UN. I was just trying to pull it up in the UN, where the United States was pushing a global agenda demanding all countries to comply with their view on sexual orientation and gender identity. And they were tying that directly to funding, especially through things like USAID, where the legislative aspect of countries would have to facilitate, in order to get financial assistance within the context of USAID, you would have to amend your legal system to facilitate their view. And that was passed. I understand it was passed by a resolution was passed by consensus, which in my understanding means that it was not voted on, tying election integrity together with sexual orientation and gender identity, which has never been a case in any of our countries, for that matter. I've never seen anything to do with it. So I believe that one of the things that's happening in the Caribbean is that our people, maybe politically, those who are interested politically, are like yourself, myself, maybe Rose, and some others, and our loyal opposition here, may be paying attention to some of these things, but the masses of the population, is almost as if they really don't care. I talk to a lot of people on the street as I move around, and I'm sure you have your own interaction with people on the street in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm sure, Rose, you've had your own interaction on the street as you have moved around. And when I start to talk about things to do with the WEF and even the cybercrime bill, people are oblivious to what I'm talking about. And trying to educate them about it, it's almost as if you're talking against a high environment of unbelief. Where people, it's like, that kind of thing doesn't happen or isn't happening. And what I fear is that by the time they realize that it is happening, it's too late. It's already implemented. It's already in place. It's already beginning to have its impact. We're beginning to see the influence and impact in Barbados of the Bank, where African financial institutions are now also coming in into the Caribbean to bring some financial assistance. And I'm taking a look at that, trying to do a bit of research on that as well. But what you've expressed is it should be of concern. It should be of concern to us, because at the end of the day, I keep making the point. I don't know how it is in Trinidad, and maybe after I finish the statement, you could indicate. But I keep making the point, and Rose, I've said this before. I've shared this with you personally. I keep making the point that nothing that we are engaging in Barbados right now is homegrown. Everything is being imposed upon us from outside, and the stranglehold or the gun being held to our heads is financing and funding. Your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And sometimes I wonder to myself, where has all the the entrepreneurship, the innovations of the Caribbean people has gone? Why are we sitting and just accepting handouts from foreign entities? Don't we believe that at some point in time there is going to be a consequence to this? There is going to be a consequence. We, as a people in the Caribbean, should be focusing more on sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and education to reduce dependency on foreign aid. This is what it is we have to be focusing on. Right now, there's a move by certain large, conglomerates and so on, big corporations to push their type of their what they call food into the Caribbean region, and strip away every opportunity for farmers, for local farmers in our respective countries. And they're infiltrating the markets, influencing the banks, etc., etc. In Trinidad and Tobago, we know personally, we know that there were at least 2 or 3 farmers. They were paid to destroy their crops. They were paid to destroy their crops. Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to do this? And we have the influx of so many foreign foods into our country, right? And you're quite right. The Chinese has a monopoly, right? And they have went about it in such a strategic way that they are in control of most of the ports throughout the globe. They have control of the ports.
Isn't it a part of their what do you call that Belt Initiative? They were talking about that global connection around the world. I think that is a part of what they're trying to implement. But one of the things that I was conversing with Rose, and you may be able to jump in here. As I traveled around Barbados, up to yesterday, I was in the parish of St. Joseph talking with some persons there, and I talked about the fact that the only agricultural market that we have, to the best of my knowledge, I think we have the Barvin group on Spring Garden that meets there occasionally, with the different produce producers bringing their produce to market. And of course, we have the Cheapside market, but then we have the Brighton market in St. George. And my question was, St. Joseph, St. Andrew, St. George could easily be some of the most fertile soils in the country. St. Joseph could easily be the breadbasket, St. Andrew, St. George. Why is it that there is no agricultural produce center in the east end of the island, in the area of St. Andrew, St. Joseph, where we should be having some of the major agricultural crop production. I mean, we used to have a governmental facility in St. Andrew that grew fruit trees and that type of thing. And you drive around the country, and Umar, I don't know if when last you visited Barbados, but I drive around the country, and I am seeing large portions of agricultural property being turned into residential development. And at the time when we are talking food security, because you have the Minister of Agriculture talking food security, and I'm coming to the point now where we hear a lot of flurry talk, we hear a lot of flurry language, a lot of nice nice expressions, but there's no substance to what is being said. We're talking about food security. I would want to think that the pandemic would have taught us the necessity to have our own aspects of food accessibility in the country. And yet, what we are seeing almost every month, and I'm being very, very generous, Rose, I think I would be, almost every month, we are seeing large portions of agricultural property being excavated for residential development. So, what is the government's agricultural plan in Barbados as it relates to food security? I remember the days, and Umar, I'm sure you were alive in the days when y'all were pumping out sugar in Trinidad out your ears. I mean, they had so many sugar factories in Trinidad. I was shocked. I'm being very honest with you. I was absolutely shocked when the sugar industry ended in Trinidad and Tobago. You're muted. You're muted. Let me see if I can.
Well,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
My father used to work for Usine St. Martin 1975 Limited, and so I have a lot of memories about those days and the sugar factory, and the produce of sugar and molasses and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you this, as you were talking about this vast expanse of land in Barbados, and it's not being utilized for agriculture, it's actually being utilized for residential and so on and so forth. Let me tell you this. You're not alone, because Trinidad and Tobago, we suffer a very similar fate here. When currently 1975 Limited was shut down, we have a number of farmers, cane farmers, who were promised currently lands. And they were supposed to have been given 2 acres of land, all right, to continue if they wanted whatever agriculture produce that they wanted to engage in and so on. But the land was primarily for agriculture. Up until now, after 20 years, my brother, after 20 years, we have over 400 cane farmers still waiting on their lands. So we have 800 acres of prime agricultural lands just sitting in the balance, and the farmers cannot access those lands as yet. We have a number of myriad issues, a lot of issues surrounding that, where farmers need to get farmers badge. In order to get a farmers badge, you have to own land, right? These farmers who are waiting over 20 years, you could well imagine their age. Now, they can't even farm the land, even if they get it now. So their children are going to inherit these lands. What are their children going to do with it? They're going to use it for residential purposes. They're going to sell it off. We had made the point in one of the crucial meetings that they've had, that why not encourage certain clauses to be placed in that arrangement, in that agreement, where those lands, those agricultural lands, should not be sold. Number one, it should never be used for nothing else except agriculture. And there ought to be some mechanism put in place to support these farmers, to make it easy for them to acquire their farmers' badges, their license, whatever they need for the agricultural business. We have pesticides and weedicides are being banned from coming into Trinidad and Tobago. Right now, we have an infestation of the African snails. There's a particular item that used to, kill them, and you would never see them anymore.
We have it here too. We have it here too.
It's no longer being brought into the country. You can't bring it no longer in the country. So in the area where I live, in central Trinidad, there's the whole area is infested with these African snails. Nothing is being done, right? Government institutions that are supposed to be, tackling this issue are also being invaded by these African snails, right? We've had many of those bloggers and those YouTubers and so on made videos, and it's widespread all over. It's as though there's a conspiracy to shut down or to make it impossible for farmers to grow our own food. It is. And it's happening in Barbados, it's happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Is there something sinister about this whole issue regarding food security within the Caribbean region? So the people, again, I'm talking to you, you all have to understand what is at play here, what is happening. And you have to figure out within yourself, within your circle, what you can do to put a stop to it. We have to be forming strong communities and pushing these initiatives and these agendas to grow more and more food to feed ourselves. And stop purchasing. Stop buying the foreign food. Buy local, support your local farmers. But we're not seeing enough of it. We hear we're seeing now one initiative here and there, and scattered over. But it is not, there's no consistency. There's no evolvement taking place. And these are the kind of things that we have to pay attention to. Let us not be distracted by these politicians who continuously lie to us, deceive us, and they're selling out to the global powers. Little by little, we're losing grip of what it is we own. We no longer own anything. And if you want to argue with me and say that I don't know what I'm talking about,
well, then they can do their own research. Persons can do their own research. The information is there for everyone to see.
You don't have control over it anymore. You don't have ownership rights. What is happening? Look what is happening in Guyana, right? Georgetown, in Guyana. Just yesterday or this morning, I think, yesterday, right? A business flight left Miami, and it was in one of those, private planes as well. Fast, very fast private plane, luxury business class and so on. Left Miami to Bridgetown. Right, this particular plane holds about at least 10 persons in that plane, in that plane. Right, so all these people were business people, I suppose. Heading to Bridgetown, heading to Georgetown. And I suppose they were heading there to have some meeting, some business deal, something of the sort, because Guyana is now a flourishing economy because of its newfound oil, etc., etc. And if we're not careful, there is going to be a plundering of our wealth. Already, our wealth has been plundered. Already.
Yeah,
And if we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
careful, it's
It
going to
will
continue.
exploit it even further.
It's going to
Yeah,
continue. What are we leaving for our children, my dear brothers and sisters?
yeah.
What are we leaving for our children? Do you want your child to come to your grave after you've gone and say, Mama and Papa, why didn't you stop this from happening? Why? Where were you when this was happening? Why didn't you stop this from happening? Look,
Yeah.
I don't own the land that you left for me, the property that you left for me, Daddy. I do not own it. I don't have control over it. They took it away from me. Why
Yeah.
didn't you stop it?
But well, that is something. You remember Rose Errol Barr told us many years ago that we are going to wake up one day and find that we don't own our country.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
we want to shift into the next segment because we just have a few more minutes left, and I see Keymar is here, and I want to bring him in right here because Keymar is going to be speaking with us concerning the matter of the green. I call it, Keymar, the Green New Deal. This transitioning that we're being told about, that seems to be purported to be the answer to all of our problems, all of our challenges, and so on. So let me welcome you, Kimar, to the show tonight. It's great to have you back with us. I've missed you a little bit. Know you've been busy and involved, but it's always great to have you and shed light on the financial aspects that we as a country are facing. So welcome to the show tonight. Great to have you. Good to see you. Of course, I think you would know Rose, of course, and I don't know if you've met Mr. Abdullah before, but this is Mr. Abdullah here from Trinidad. And Mr. Abdullah, this is Kimar Stewart, our one of our young upcoming ministers of finance, I would have to say.
So Gimmick Power 49, Gimmick to Omar. Good to be here on the program with you. And Gimmick to Will, I could see it's good to be on the show this evening.
I think we're getting some very cloudy communications coming from your end. Your mic is not clean and clear.
Um, any better now or no?
No, it just sounds very muffled. Sounds very muffled.
So it sounds muffled. Let me try to.
I think it might be his headset. If he
Yeah,
disconnects the headset,
it might be
Any
it
better
might be
now?
your headset, or no, might be your headset. You might have to try disconnecting it and just reconnecting it again.
Wait,
You're
um,
plugged in. You're plugged into a phone or a computer.
Can you hear me now?
probably the guy speaking to Mike directly, you would hear him better.
Great. How about now, Pastor Ferdinand?
Yeah, that's clear. Just
Yes,
a little
much
more
better.
volume, but that's clear. That's much better.
Great. Yeah, so that should be good now, I think. Yeah, so good night to you. Good night to, said his name is Omar. Good to, yeah, good to
Umar,
meet
Yes.
you. I've
UMAR,
never,
Mr.
I don't
Umar.
think,
Yes.
Umar, sorry, Umar. I don't think we've ever, if I could remember, I don't think we've ever had, or shared the platform before, so it's good to finally, share it with you. And good night to Rose. Um, I've not seen her online for a while. Good night to Marcia, Dave, and all of the members of the loyal opposition. Good to be on this evening. Fred, you could hear me? No, I'm not hearing you.
Yes.
I'm not hearing you, Ferdy. You're muted, probably.
Yes, I was. I was muted, and before we get any further, before we get any further, loyal opposition. Let me see, Dave. I don't know if you can find that image I put in the area tonight, but let me take this opportunity to wish you, on behalf of the loyal opposition, happy belated birthday. I'm not sure what your count is, but happy belated birthday to you on behalf of the loyal opposition.
Uh, Thank you very much. I am 30 years old. This weekend.
Okay, Rhodes, you hear that one?
So thank you
Uh,
very much, members, and thank you for all those persons
yes.
who sent your greetings. It's my pleasure, you know. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. So, yes, sir. All to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I have not been on the show for a while, so it's good to be back here. I miss everybody, Caswell, Marcia, everyone. Um, but tonight I wanted to discuss specifically the green transition and Barbados and its plan to go to meet the sustainable United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030, which involves specifically renewable energy goals and renewable energy goal number 7, Pastor Ferdinand, which suggests that all persons deserve access to sustainable energy. So, in the world of the United Nations Sustainable Development Plan, um, sustainable energy could be defined as solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, nuclear energy, more green farms of, you know, uh, powering the world and moving away from fossil fuels. So that's where we're at. And we received a visit, Pastor Ferdinand, very recently from the IMF director,
I saw
um,
that.
who spoke extensively in a joint forum with the Prime Minister of Barbados about the need for Barbados and the Caribbean to make the green transition. Right? So the Electricity Supply Act allowing the light and power to have a rate increase. That rate increase is simply to fund the green transition, right? To allow for light and power to invest in the infrastructure to be able to run the renewable energy systems on the grid. Right? So this green transition and moving away from oil and gas will not lower people's light bills or anything that. In fact, it will go up. Right? So the World Economic Forum, Pastor Ferdinand, if you go on their website, you will see a green transition is urgently needed. Here is how we can fuel it. Climate change is a global crisis where more than half of the world's GDP is moderately or highly dependent on nature. Understanding the urgency of the green transition is paramount for global leaders, particularly corporate executives, as they wield significant influence over environmental sustainability and future well-being. Uh, the urgent need to address climate change and accelerate a green transition is imperative for our shared future. as indicated by the World Economic Forum, which stated that approximately 44 trillion of economic value generation, or more than half of the world's total GDP, is heavily dependent on nature. And a holistic system that we partake in every day is responsible for the degradation of the natural world. So the idea of this green transition and getting global leaders and chief executive officers and prime ministers and presidents to focus on how the day-to-day running of countries on oil and gas, and how do these things impact a country and nature. So again, Pastor Ferdinand, the IMF and the director took a trip all the way to Barbados, and I want to remind persons that the last IMF program, because we're now at the 2 year anniversary of the birth, the Barbados Economic and Recovery Transformation Plan, which was signed on December 7th, 2 years ago. Right? We're now at the 2 year anniversary of that plan. And that plan is the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, under which we received funding, where we got at least $153 million in funding from the International Monetary Fund to make this so-called green transition. Right? So, as usual, right? As usual, there's always a consultant attached to these projects, right? Attached to these projects. So, to advise the government of Barbados, they went and hired a company, Pastor Ferdinand, uh, by the name of C for All, and that spells SEFORALL, C for All, Sustainable Energy for All. Right? So this C for All, this organization, is led by the co-chair of the United Nations program on sustainable energy goal number 7. The co-chair of that program is the chief executive officer of C for All, and the government of Barbados hired C for All as a consultant company to make this green transition and to advise the government of Barbados how to transition from a oil and gas economy into a more natured form of power in the economy. So you heard of it, the recent merger of the Barbados National Oil Company and the National Petroleum Corporation. So the Minister of Energy, Lisa Cummins, I think last week or a week before Parliament, announced this grand plan to merge the National Petroleum Corporation and the Barbados National Oil Company. Right? So that merger would see these two entities merge into one entity and now taking on the form of an energy company and not necessarily oil and gas oil and gas company. Right? The ownership structure of the National Petroleum Corporation right now is that the National Oil Company has shares in the NPC, so it's just merging the two. So when you have this merger now and a transformation now into an energy, an energy operation, this then allows this the renewable energy idea to take fruition. So the minister said they're going to have something called special purpose vehicles, right? Special purpose vehicles, which would essentially take on the new roles of renewable energy in a future Barbados economy, which is supposed to be green, right? Bear in mind that the IMF has paid us upfront in this resilience and sustainability trust to make this happen, right? So that is why the IMF director is here, because this resilience and sustainability plan, Barbados is the first recipient or on the list of the first recipients in the world to receive money from this fund ever. But this fund was only created this year, right? And we were upfront in receiving that money. So the director, this program is her pet project. Right? So she is coming into Barbados trying to see about the project, because this has to work, because her professional credibility depends on
Is
how
on the line.
this thing works, right? Along with the fact that Barbados had to agree to a new staff level agreement with the IMF. Right? They had to agree with a new agreement, Pastor Ferdinand, which says that things are not as okay as we're being told. Usually, we know the IMF does periodic reviews, right?
Yes.
And in the media, they say, well, the IMF just did their regular review. But on the last visit, it says that they agreed to a new staff level agreement. And they were now waiting on the board to approve the new arrangement, right? So the IMF director being here in the window of the December period, because remember I told you that December 7th is the 2-year anniversary. Now, just a FYI, IMF programs are usually 18 months. Right? Usually 18 months, depending on the severity of the program and the depth of the intervention. Right? Hardly ever do you get IMF programs that are 24 months, which is 2 years. Right? Only countries that have deep fundamental economic disturbances have IMF programs that are 3 years and above. And for a small country like Barbados to have an extensive IMF program is extremely concerning. Right? So within the IMF's visit and within the language of green transition, because this green transition now, Pastor Ferdinand, is like a last ditch effort to get any type of investment or to get any type of serious sustainable project going in the Barbados economy that could give any type of serious return on investment. Because if you look across the industries of Barbados, you for an investor to put his money in a lot of the mature industries that we have, the return is just not there. So if it don't make money, then it don't make sense. Right? So renewable energy is the only industry that the authorities in Barbados have to rely on for any type of saving grace or growth. Right? So let's look at the areas within this green transition and within the renewable energy sector that we're going to depend on. Right? So the new Electricity Supply Act, Pastor Ferdinand, which we had the interveners and the advocates speaking about how Light and Power was attempting to blindside with the assistance of parliamentarians. Like with the assistance of parliamentarians attempting to blindside the people of Barbados into getting a rate increase. Right? Bear in mind that Light and Power owns the electricity grid in Barbados. Right? So it still baffles me up to today how Light and Power could control the entire grid. That they could basically blackball and strong arm the state anytime the state attempts to make an intervention to keep electricity rates down. Now that is a mystery that needs to be solved. How Light and Power really ended up with full control over the electricity grid in Barbados as a private entity and not a government or state operation. So for a private entity to have such power and control over the masses, even such power and control over the government, these are things that need to be looked at. Um, Thankfully, that is not the situation with our water authority as it is. But again, within the green transition, right, the Barbados Water Authority is the point institution in which majority of the climate funds will have access into the Barbados economy. So part of the green transition involves using the debt swap to build the tertiary level sewage plant up at the South Coast. That is part of the green transition. Like putting the sewage back into the aquifers, same transition. Like repurposing the water authority, getting into the bottled water industry, selling water for foreign exchange, and giving the locals the tainted the water, selling the water to the cruise ships and other entities on the foreign exchange market, bottling water to export and to be selling on local shelves, as opposed to having water coming through the tap. Because that infrastructure, according to Water Authority and according to the state, is too heavy a burden for the government to carry or continuously carry according to them. So they're trying to find smart means and ways to divest a lot of these old assets to the water authority and to have a more sustainable way of delivering um, water. So that involves increasing the price of water, not the tax, the price. So remember, before the garbage and sewage tax went on, water bills were roughly $30. After the tax went on, that was like a $45 tax. That $30 unit price has not really moved for many years. So when this green transition happens and water authorities repurpose, that $30 component will increase by an amount. I don't know the amount, but it will increase by an amount. Along, you still have to pay that garbage and sewage tax. That you still have to pay that $45, along with the increase that will come on the $30 component. Right? So you're gonna have an increase in light, you're gonna have an increase in water. Now, to pump water into people's households, you need electricity, right? So the water authority is later powers, if not largest, one of the largest consumers of electricity in Barbados, meaning that the government has to pay later power substantial millions every year in electricity bills just to pump water into everybody's household. So government is indeed one of the main financiers of Legend Power, inadvertently through the water authority. Right? So the green transition involves the government reining back its financial responsibility from these two entities, which use up a lot of oil and gas to function and to run. So on the Legend Power side, change the infrastructure to more renewable energy friendly to get more savings. And then on the water authority side, you implement the same infrastructure, whatever. So you're making money on both sides. Electricity through the increases, the price increases that they're trying to get. And then on the water side, they're going to make more money through the increases of water and the savings that they're going to make from not having to pump water to everybody's household anymore. Because realistically, who's going to be applying for new water facilities knowing that you're getting sewage water? No? So that is all about the green transition. Oil and gas. How would Barbados function? How would Barbados run?
But
Now,
I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question, Kimar, and before you,
sorry,
you
go
move
ahead.
on from this, I have recently, and Rose, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to jump in as well and share here concerning this. You can use your thinking, give it some thought while I'm just making mention of this. Um, I'm a car man, and I pay attention to what car manufacturers are doing because it speaks volumes to me. Recently, Toyota announced that they are ceasing the production of all electrical vehicles. That was an announcement by Toyota. I think it is General Motors in the United States of America has also issued a similar statement, and I believe Ford may be going down that line as well. Is there something that we are not hearing concerning all of this hype around climate change, pertaining to the move toward electrical sources, and of course, the automotive industry, there you're using the battery operated systems. I also just saw, I was just reading an update from the World Economic Forum to do with the need for nickel, is it nickel cadmium or something like this, which are some very serious products for production. I hear nobody addressing the um, child labor in Africa for the production of batteries. I hear nobody addressing this. I don't hear any of the international agencies to do with human rights and child slavery or anything of that nature. I don't hear anybody cheating to that. And I hear nothing pertaining to the pushback because there's a lot of pushback that's beginning to come. And as I said, I'm an automotive guy from the automotive producers. I know of several fleets, for example, of trucks in the United States of America that went electric that have all gone back fossil fuel. All of them have gone back fossil fuel. I think you would recall that during the Arthur administration, we struck oil off of Barbados. Barbados could be debt free, but the prime minister cannot move to develop the oil sector in Barbados with her global pontification of climate change and renewable energy and that type of thing. She can't come back. So, but Barbados is going to be left saddled with debt. And the thing about fossil fuel development is that it has been significantly refined over the years. I mean, motor vehicles, for that matter, due to the setup of their exhaust systems and so on, both in trucks, buses, cars, everything, are considerably more efficient in terms of pollutants going into the atmosphere. And so I am just wondering to myself, just how uh, how legitimate this talk is with regards to the shift over to energy aspects of renewable energy and so on, and the discontinuation of the use of fossil fuels. Rose, I don't
Well,
know if there's anything you'd like to jump in there and add after Kimar, you make your comment.
yeah. Well, I'm glad Dr. Umar is on the show because you raise a point, Pastor Ferdinand, that is very important. And that point is Barbados is the climate champion in the world. We receive probably, well, we are there and receiving climate financing and climate funding. We push the climate narrative heavy, heavy, heavy. Um, so how could a country pushing the climate narrative and renewable energy be talking about drilling oil and accessing oil off Barbados? Two don't make sense as a contradiction. But what we have in Barbados is a government that is a direct contradiction because they are right now drilling oil off Barbados as we speak, right? So a company called BHP or Woodside Energy has the contract to drill oil off the Bimsha block and the Carlisle Bay block offshore Barbados. And Barbados and Trinidad signed an agreement because of the close borders that we would share resources when it comes to oil exploration. So majority of the oil that we discover and the hydrocarbons that we discover are sent to Trinidad at dirt cheap rates, and Trinidad then refines it, and we then buy it back, and then it's then distributed to. So agreements were signed between Prime Minister Rowley and Mia Motley as it relates to hydrocarbon, hydrocarbon, oil and gas, and the exploration of oil off Barbados, because 22 oil blocks were put up for auction at a national conference on the international market. Right? So Barbados is doing both, pushing the climate narrative, begging for climate money, speaking about the green transition, and still getting home, sneaking around behind the international people's back, and still drilling for oil, right? Part hand in hand in a partnership with Trinidad. So yes, Ferdinand, it is a contradiction that is actively happening right now.
Um,
Rose, you got any thoughts on this?
yes, several. And if you were seeing me with my head down, I was not being disrespectful, but I was using my cell phone to go back to appraise myself of the Bridgetown initiative as Brother Umar um, spoke on. And I smiled because in there it says that the World Economic Forum says that the Bridgetown Initiative, I'm reading from their site, is a proposal to reform the world of development finance, particularly how rich countries help poor countries. And I was not a happy trooper hearing Barbados described as a poor country. There may be impoverished persons and poverty in Barbados, but we've been seen first as an independent nation, a sovereign nation, and we were graduated to the point where we were called right came our small island developing state. Now, with this Bridgetown initiative, it would seem to me to be reclassified to one of the countries as poor, and again uh, requesting. If you look at the the heart of the Bridgetown initiative, it is really like a cap in hand appeal, asking, look, give us some money to help us deal with climate change, that narrative. And I'm saying that if this is be pardon me, being pushed by the Prime Minister, I think that Barbados should be a model of being proactive and trying to manage our own uh, challenges and concerns as a vulnerable, um, prone to the oops, they've lost me, I've lost them. Philip, I have,
I can hear you, Rose.
yes,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think she's lost
Tonight,
the I
my
think she's
company,
lost the information that she was trying to share with us just now. Um,
I have the information, but all night from this end, I've been having some challenges on the laptop. But what I'm saying that we should be a model, you know, of how an island that is vulnerable to floods, as they have put here, floods and drought and coastal um, coastal issues, that shouldn't we be proactive and try to show how we are solving these? It's a contradiction, as Kimar pointed out. You know, we're talking it, but we're not doing it. And I was looking here at how could we, as a self-governing nation, um, limit or try to control um, issues and destruction um, due to the climate change. And I made some notes quickly. Housing stock. Governments after governments have left the poor and the vulnerable with poor housing stock. I'm talking about uh, fixing the housing stock, putting aside funds. Will some of that money, Kimar, go to refurbishing and having more stable, um, improved housing stock? That, I mean, you can only do that much, but at least you can give persons the assurance that wherever the clouds set up and rain start to fall, or you hear a notice on comes through from the Met Office that there's going to be a tropical depression or a hurricane is coming or a storm is coming, that you take the necessary precautions, but you don't feel vulnerable, that your house is going to collapse on you, the foundation is going to pop in
Rose,
and the roof is going to be blown off. I
Rose, you
think that
remember?
one of us
Sorry, not to cut you, but you just you spoke about homes and homes blowing off. You remember that your whole project is supposed to be a renewable energy project mixed with housing, right? Home owners producing energy with solar panels on top.
and it's a contradiction. Our narrative, the narrative we're here, and this is an aside, Pastor Ferdinand, but I feel I should attend to it. I don't necessarily respond to comments in the chat, but someone in the chat, I don't remember who it is, wanted to know what's the purpose of my presentation, like move along, we're republic. The purpose of presentations like these is to show to the public the lack of regard and the lack of respect for the Barbadian public on how things are being done. And yes, we're a republic, but how did we get there? How were we treated in the process? Are you satisfied? That person who asked what's the purpose of my presentation tonight, satisfied that we became a republic, cart before the horse, without a constitution? Are you
But you see this,
satisfied with how things are being done? And you say, well, it happened already. That is the response that they want from us. And as Lawrence Fishburne said in the movie Higher Learning, it is the apathy that corrodes a people from within. And if we sit and don't respond and become apathetic or say to ourselves, it happened already, it creates the platform, it gives permission to continue doing these things to us, because somewhere in the minds of the policymakers, the minds of the MP, the minds of the government, there is this notion that they ain't gonna do nothing about it. You cannot sit and wait for a Clement Payne to get on a boat and come to Barbados and tell you that things are not working to agitate you. I'm not saying um, riot, but I'm saying that this is supposed to be a highly learned and educated people, a nation, and therefore you should not be depending on voices like ours to speak out. So, to you who asked what's the purpose of my presentation, it is to use the road to the Republic as an example of how things are done nowadays and how we accept it.
You
And
know, Rose, that's a
I will continue to make presentations like this.
no. You don't make an apology. You see what we're talking about here are processes. You know, fundamentally, it's like the cybercrime bill. Everybody knows a country needs to have the protection mechanism of where technology is concerned. But it's the processes that were used, and it is some of the content in that bill that we are standing up against. What Kimar is talking about here as well are processes. What Umar has been talking about are the processes. What you have been talking about are the processes that governments are using to bring things to the platform where number one, it happens when we're not even paying attention. Number two, it happens in terms of secrecy. Number three, it happens where you, even if you can see it, much of what is underlying all of it is not carried in the media, it's not reported. So what we're talking about here are processes. What we're saying is that we're demanding, I'm going to use two words, and Kimar, you will know these two words were used over the last two general elections: transparency and accountability. That is the issue here. We are demanding transparency. We are demanding that when governments do things, that the citizens know what is going on. I am sure, Kimar, tonight, that if you were to ask the 690 something people who are on the show at the moment, if they were aware of the fact of oil being drilled off of Barbados, majority of people would tell you no. I'm
Yeah,
sure if you ask, they would tell you no. Because I didn't know. I knew it had been discussed. But in the context of all the stuff that's been going on around Mia Motley and her propagation of the climate matters in the international arena, I would never have thought that it would have been engaged. Go ahead, Umar.
May I just
yeah,
quickly continue
Well,
my list? It isn't long.
hold a minute, Rose. Let me just take this submission by Umar because our time is getting away quickly. So just let me
Yeah.
take this from him. Yeah, go ahead, Umar.
Um, Kemar, I think we all have to help each other understand what is happening here. Because there's a number of things that's been said and it's contradictory in nature. And I have some information here that I want to share as well. It appears to me that they have to sell climate change. They have to sell it, and the people have to buy it under all cost, right? And they are doing what is ever necessary to do that. Because I don't know if you all are aware of this, but there was an attempt by China to create a nuclear fusion reactor that is 6 times hotter than the sun, right? Every time they run it, it would only last or extend its time for 10 seconds. What happened after that? 35 countries, listen to me carefully, 35 countries came together to fund this project to build the world's largest fusion reactor somewhere in the south of France. This project is going to come on stream in 2050. Now it's called a thermonuclear experimental reactor, which is ITER, that's the acronym. And what they're doing, they are using heat to cause electrons and protons to fuse together. You know, normally these atoms will normally repel each other because of the positive and the negative charge. Now, this fusion reactor is going to build up this amount of heat, and it's going to be so hot that it's going to actually fuse these particles together, which would release a tremendous amount of energy. And it is said that once they're successful, 1 inch of water off Lake Erie, and everybody who knows the Lake Erie, it's not a huge lake, well, just 1 inch of water would be enough to create or to produce more power than what is left of fossil fuel in the earth. And some of these countries include China, of course, the European Union, India, Japan, Korea, Russia, and the United States.
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm asking the question. My brother Ferdinand said that, you know, Toyota made an announcement they're scrapping the electric cars. And I think a lot of other companies are going that way. And we're hearing this talk about climate change and they're pushing it down our throat. We have to believe that climate change is a problem and fossil fuel is causing this to happen. I'm also hearing the cows are responsible in some way also.
Yeah.
Cows.
Don't even go there. Don't even go there. That is a ludicrous member of Congress from the United States that talk that nonsense.
The thing about it is that why 35 countries have so important to invest in a project such as this, because they want to get rid of fossil fuel. They want to get rid of the dependency on fossil fuel, right? And they're creating this fusion reactor to produce energy. And if 1 inch of water from Lake Erie is going to produce so much of power, you could well imagine the kind of power we're talking about. And who, the question should be asked, who would be controlling this? Right? Now, if for the listeners, for those who are listening on, go and research it yourself. Research it yourself. ITER. All right? It's a International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. 35 countries, billions of dollars are being pushed in this project. So all this talk about, you know, and what Barbados is doing as regards to the oil, etc., what is not being told to us? What they're not telling us? Why are they hiding this type of information? What are they not telling us?
Mm-hmm. But Kimar, I don't know if you want to take, because we only have a couple more minutes left here on the program tonight. I don't know if you want to take, Rose, I'm going to have to just hold your comments that you wanted to make, because I want to see if Kimar, you can conclude what you were sharing there. You were about to address something else very quickly.
Oh, well, wrapping up. This entire green transition, climate change, is under serious threat because Donald Trump is now in office, and Trump has said openly that climate change is a hoax. So all of these countries borrowing money under the narrative of climate change and implementing this climate infrastructure, and as Rose said, climate houses, and Dr. Umar is speaking about the rising of sea levels. I could go as far as to say the increased frequency of hurricanes and natural disasters, earthquakes, and this type of natural phenomena. Um, Even having the risk of insurance premiums now to protect against these things. There's even discussions about having the average citizen pay some type of like hurricane insurance, like some type of hurricane premium per individual. So all of these narratives conveniently pop up because they're underlined by the narrative of money. They're all profit oriented schemes. And that is simply what it comes back down to, right? More feasible ways to control the flow of money into uh, a small select few corporations. This has nothing to do with PLP or DLP or PNP and GLP and PNM and UNC, and this is way bigger now. Um, Way bigger that this is on the global level. Um, where this global, I mean, I can say that it goes past the global leaders into the for sure 1% of the world. Um, we just went through an entire pandemic, Pastor Ferdinand. We're hearing these philanthropists now speak about future pandemics and
That's right.
right. So we have a lot of preparing to do, but with Trump being in place, and I'm sure you could appreciate this now, institutions like the World Health Organization
Got
and
problems.
NATO
Got problems.
and yeah, and a lot of the institutions that, and particularly the ones who push the climate narrative, uh, finding smart means and ways to basically cut down the oil barons and to cut the wealth for the oil barons and transfer the wealth out to the oil and gas industry into this new renewable industry where they could completely control the flow of the money. And think about it, you are guaranteed to make money, right? And saying that a hurricane has to hit the Caribbean at some point in time is a for sure thing. So money will automatically be generated. People
Hmm.
have to
Hmm.
use electricity. So money will be generated from electricity. You have to use water. So money will be generated from your absolute necessities, things that you need. They're putting total financial control over them, having the Patriot knows just as it's on this earth. And the next thing they're gonna try to monetize for as a Ferdinand is the good air that we breathe.
I won't be
So
surprised.
thank
I
you.
would not be surprised, Kimar. And listen, I want us to if we can, please reconvene next Monday, and I want to pick this up and pick up from where to where you were heading, Kimar. And Rose, I am not forgetting your statements that you wanted to make, just so that you know. I'll give you the opportunity, but you have to be quick. But I just want to make this comment. Um, there is an attempt to shut down, well, not an attempt, there is a move on to shut down dissenting voices on this matter of climate change. I have listened to some of the experts on climate, including the man who created the Weather Channel, who does not share the perspectives of global leaders around the world. I have listened to people who are observing the Arctic and Antarctica area, and they are not sharing the same information we are being told by global leaders and globalists around the world. I'm listening, or I'm observing persons who are pushing this agenda, purchasing properties on beaches where you would least expect them to purchase because you would expect that with rising ocean levels, they're the first things that can get wiped out. Kimar, you may have missed the session I shared. in which I looked at the last 50 years of hurricanes within our region to note that we have had actually a slight decline in the number of hurricanes. Even this hurricane season we have just had has been a slight decline in hurricanes, and the damage and loss of life has declined significantly. And so I'm hearing a contradiction of expression and statistics. When I start to look at statistical information put out there by the NOAA and other weather experts, I am not hearing what the globalists and the global leaders and political leaders are saying. I remember when this whole thing started, I believe it started, I stand to be corrected, with Al Gore and sustainable development pushed. I can't remember if he was vice president. I think it was on Clinton or something like that, and he started to push this whole matter of sustainable development. And I could see where it was going. Here we are, where it is today, and I'm hearing a lot of pushback. But those people who are pushing back are being censored, just like we went through with the pandemic, and came to the end of the pandemic to discover that they were correct and they were not lying. And so I'd like to ask if we could reconvene next Monday, as I'm sure the loyal opposition would ask it to. Kimar, we have become known now as the loyal CARICOM opposition. Last week um, we had the Honorable Karita MacDonald on, sharing with Mr. Abdullah, myself. I think Rose, you were here as well,
Yeah.
with us, and the folk gave us that new name. That gave us that new name, the loyal CARICOM opposition, because of the mix. And I mean, Mr. Abdullah is bringing some significantly important information to the table, and I'm glad, Mr. Omar. Let me bring you back. And I was just hoping, in terms of the mic noise there, but I'm just amazed at the similarity of information that we share. Because when I gave the show tonight the name "Whatever Happened to the Barbados We Knew," I didn't even know what. I didn't know the content. I knew the subject of what you were going to share. I did see some notes that you sent, and I didn't know the content of what Kimar or Rose were going to share. I knew the fundamentally the headings, but indeed, what is happening to the Barbados we knew? And I'm sure you're asking the same question: what is happening to the Trinidad you knew? And Rose, I'm going to give you the closing comment as the lady in our midst, but I'm just going to ask you to be tight on your comment. If there's anything you can hold for next week, Monday, when we come back together, because I'll tell you, we're not going to be losing the loyal opposition on this.
Thank you. And I've got it here quickly. And it is continuing on that Bridgetown initiative. And I made a note that it should be more than about money and securing loans for financing and refinancing poor countries in a climate crisis. And that here in Barbados, get off the global platform and step down to Barbados, look at our housing stock, maintenance of government owned buildings, dealing with the reduction of the sick building syndromes at schools and government offices, delivery of timely, appropriate health care so that we don't have a weak and sick population, but a population that can take care of itself and do the things that they need to do to protect themselves from these crises, these climate crises. Um, we could look at proper land use, arable land being designated for development. We can look at the coastal management. What is happening along the coast? You are talking about coastal erosion, but still you are allowing hotels to build multi-storage edifices all along the vulnerable coast. As we know that is being planned from the
Yeah,
garrison way down to the harbor.
yeah,
That is what we should be looking at. Get off the global platform. We should be looking at things like drainage, maintaining the gutters, the wells, the water course when we have a heavy deluge of water, rain coming down. What about um, agriculture, as the brother said? Allocating the land for agriculture was about water management. We keep coming back about that. If we're so vulnerable, ensure that we have proper water management, burst pipes, the wastage. That is part of climate change, proactive measures, um, making sure that every household has clean, potable water, so that in the event there is a change in weather, you yourself can collect that water and store it from within your household. And the list goes on. I am saying that we need to be proactive beyond the Bridgetown initiative and the new set of money that Kima is talking about under another name, all in the name of being a vulnerable state, all in the name of saying you're representing from these Pacific Islands all the way back Indonesia, Thailand, all those places that have tsunami and whatever, that you're representing them and you are seeking to get money for them for refinancing and financing their vulnerability and exposure to climate change, while at home, bit by bit, this kill old cow, do the bit by bit so that we are taken care of and are assured of our safety, assured that you are doing things to protect the Barbadian public who give you a 30-0 twice. It's in them countries out, and yes, we need to extend goodwill and ideas to the other country. But Indonesia, it ain't Sri Lanka, it isn't Myanmar, it isn't all those countries that are affected
Yes.
by natural
Yes.
disaster. Look inward too and note that we
Yes.
are
Yes.
right
What we
in the
can do
middle
here.
of the Atlantic Ocean, where hurricanes come fast and furious at. Look at taking care of your household.
Of our
And it
own
is
area.
beyond boring. On that, I close.
Let home drums beat first. Let home drums beat first. Dave, I wonder if you could just enlarge on that flyer there as we close the session off tonight. We want to remind you of this Christmas drive up until the 30th of December, 2024. Um, just trying to see if I can help donate, gently use our new toys to give children a better Christmas. You drop off locations. Um, if we can just take that, um, banner down, that we could see the bottom of that ad. And just pull that down for a moment. Right, thanks. Drop off locations, solo, fun island, toy shop, and I can't read that other one, but anyhow, the toy drive, Christmas Hope for Life charity. We have until the 20th of December, and we want to encourage you to be a part of this initiative. There was another one, thank you. Another one you had there, the benefit concert, again, to help save Amaya. We have special appearances by Praise Academy of Dance, and this is on the 15th of December at Coffees Bay Street. Starts at 5 o'clock, entry by donation. We want to encourage you to support these two efforts in terms of helping people, helping Amaya with her physical condition. I have to look back up the information I got to find out exactly what that is. And of course, Christmas time, toys for these children. And again, I saw someone had posted something in the chat. I can't remember who it was, and it's probably a good distance away from there in terms of help for clothing for some people who may not have. And I just want to say to all of us, regardless of whether it's an effort made by an organization or whatever, if you're in a community and you know there are people with needs in that community, you don't have to wait for an organization or some charity or anything of that sort. You can get together as a community and you can give assistance in the way that Barbadians are able to do that. I want to thank our guest tonight, Umar. Thank you again for being here with us. Always a tremendous learning experience, especially from the international cycle of things, the international side of things, to see how they're going to be impacting us here. And some of those exposures, I looked up that Cessna jet and I was trying to see if I could have downloaded a picture of it, but I wasn't successful to get it done. But it's a beauty. I would tell you that. And inside is absolutely stunning. I tell you, if your prime minister flew up on that baby, my goodness, I tell you that is not 5 cents to lease that, my friend. I can tell you.
It landed,
I can tell
it
you that.
landed, it landed in Barbados. It landed in Barbados.
Oh my goodness! I hope we got some airport tax from it. I really hope we did. I tell you, Rose, again, want to thank you too for your presentation, which is of great value. You just do what you know how to do. My mother used to tell me, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you cannot please all of the people all of the time. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting those presentations ready that we can look at some of those aspects. We're going to be looking for Mr. Nigel Newton when he's coming back on. Of course, Kimar Caswell will be on from time to time. He's indicated that he'll come on when he's able to do so because he's got his hands busy with the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, as far as I can see. And of course, we want to thank you again. I am looking forward to next week, Monday, when you come to pick up what you were about to move into. But I want to thank you for opening up our eyes concerning, well, I call it the Green New Deal. I call it that. And some of the ludicrous things that you hear. I heard. I don't know why that AOC Cortez. I don't know why she. Well, let me be kind. Don't let me say anything. But anybody that could suggest, and I think Bill Gates is involved in it as well. That could suggest that the cows passing air in American fields is a threat to climate change is I think really pushing the boundaries of psychological assistance. The person obviously needs help where that is concerned. So I want to thank all of you for being here, Mr. Umar Abdullah. I hope I have that right. I hope I got it right on this occasion. Thank you for being here as well. And hopefully, Madam Karita will be able to make it with us next Monday to carry us out, Jadu, for Christmas. So God bless members of the loyal opposition. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here. God bless you. Have a great, great week. And we look forward to you. Join us on Wednesday night. I think Mr. Donville Innes, I had seen a banner come up across the screen, but I believe Mr. Donville Innes will be with us at the Marcy Week show on Wednesday, if I am not mistaken. Just looking to see if I can put that banner back up. If you could, let me just see if I can find it here so that while they're doing that, oh dear, there we go. So while they're playing this farewell song for the session tonight, let's keep in mind Mr. Donville and a special guest Wednesday, December the 11th. God bless you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Umar Abdullah. Kimar, God bless you. Thank you for being here, Rose. And loyal opposition, thank you again for joining us tonight on the Marcy Week show. Hit it, Dave. Take us out.
Christmas again in my Caribbean land. You know that we is the land of the sea and sun. You won't hear sleigh bells in the air, only church bells in the chilly atmosphere. And smiling faces everywhere you go. People real happy cause they got dough. All the bonus and the back pay ain't enough to spend for Christmas Day. We repair the house, we change the curtains, Christmas. We bring it carpet for Christmas. Christmas is the deadline for everything. We make it just for Christmas. We think about love for Christmas. We kiss and we hug for Christmas. On this blessed day, this is what it means. Christmas. It's turkey and ham for Christmas. It's pork and it's lamb for Christmas. Sacrifice a ram. Christmas. It's rum and it's wine. Christmas. Sorrow when you die. Christmas. It's yours and it's mine. It is Christmas, we working for all year long. When December comes, we singing happy song. Had not for Christmas, what we would do. We won't have no deadline to work up to. We do things we haven't done all year long, like going to church and then going around. By all your old friends you didn't see, just to see who ain't got your Christmas tree. We rebuild the house for Christmas. We change the curtain for Christmas. We bring a carpet for Christmas. Christmas is the deadline for everything. We making judge for Christmas. We think about love for Christmas. We kiss and we hug for Christmas. On this blessed day, this is what it means. Christmas. It's turkey and ham for Christmas. It's pork and it's lamb for Christmas. Sacrifice a ram. Christmas. It's rum and it's wine. Christmas. Sorrow when you die. Christmas. It's yours and it's mine.